First thing you want to do is pop the hood. Then you're going to want to remove this cover. Next thing we're going to do, since the shifter is down there, we need to remove the airbox. Just pull this rubber strap. That'll release this rubber boot from the airbox hoses. Unclip the sensor right here. Just set that off to the side somewhere where it's not going to get damaged. Next thing we want to do, I think the easiest part is going to be, I'll just undo it here. So I'll undo this clamp, right? Take this bolt out that holds it, and then take this whole unit out as one piece. So when you pull this airbox out, you pull the box straight up. Once you get it to this position, you're going to rotate towards the front, right? That way you can clear this without having any issues. There it goes. It's hard to do it with one hand. You'll have two hands. You'll be all good. Next thing you're going to want to do is pop these shifter cables off of the linkage. So you're just going to go ahead like this, pop it off, let it go off to the side. Same thing with this one. This one's at a little bit harder of an angle, so it's going to take a little caressing. There you go, just like that. When I put them back on, they don't have any now, but I'm gonna probably go ahead and just put a little bit of 500 degree wheel bearing grease inside of there. Alright, next there's a little, I'll use a screwdriver so you guys can see, but right here you'll be able to see that this ring moves. Can you see that? So you're going to slide it back and pull straight up and it'll come out of the bracket. There's another one on the back side. That's the one with the black end. And it works the same way. You pull the collar back and it'll pull straight out. Next you have where the clutch line sits in. And this is just a rubber grommet and it comes straight out. Next thing you want to do is find a 10mm socket, a long extension, and you want to find all three of the screws, or bolts I should say, and go ahead and take those out. Then you can pull the bracket out. The third bolt you need to get is horizontal. So you're going to want to have a ratcheting wrench or just a plain crescent or open end wrench, box wrench, whatever you got. I'm using a ratcheting box wrench to get this one. It's also 10mm. After removing all three bolts, you're going to go ahead and wiggle it and twist it and turn it until you can figure out a way to get it out. I didn't find any, real easy way. It's just trial and error, moving stuff out of the way and getting it out. So after you get it out, these are the three bushings you're going to replace. So you push these collars out, or you can take a flathead. So these have steel collars with rubber inserts. Okay. So you're going to take these out like so, and then pop the bushing out. Just like that. Do that for all three, and then I'll show you how to put the bushings in. So here are the two bushings side by side. The stock one is obviously the rubber with the steel insert, and then the Buma Racing aluminum anodized or painted, I think they're anodized, metal bushings. These are obviously going to have no give whatsoever, and this is shit. Alright, so to mount these things, you want to glue them a little bit so they don't move. So you want to use a thick one, which would be the one on the right. It's the one that has a smaller groove around the outside. The one with the bigger groove is the skinny one, which goes on top. So you just put a dab of hot glue. I'm just using a hot glue gun. I put a dab right there, and then I stick it on the bottom, hold it for a second, do the same thing with the top, and it'll turn out like this. Make sure to clean the plate first, otherwise no matter what glue you use, it's not going to stick. Alright, so I put a little extra on the vertical one so that nothing would fall, and then I'd be pissed having to dig under the car to get the stuff. Alright, I want to reiterate one more thing. You're going to install the skinny one first, because the other one fits inside of this. So the only way to get it done right is to put the skinny one on top first, and then install the bottom one with the fat lip. Be careful with this clutch retainer. It obviously bolts underneath, so once the bolt's out, the thing will fall. And I just had to dig it from underneath the belly pan. So yeah, pay attention, pull this, put it somewhere safe until you're going to reinstall it. So now the bushings are in. I'm going to slide this underneath, put the screws back in, tighten it down, put these lines back together, put a baby bit of grease on these, and put it back together. So it stiffened it up really nice. This part right here is still flexing. Maybe in the future I'll weld a piece of steel from here to the back bracket to support it so it doesn't even move at all. I'll give it a couple weeks, probably do that project. It's not very hard to take this apart. It's taken me a lot longer since I obviously videotaping everything. So I put a little bit of grease, very little, inside of these, put it together. So yeah, all that's left now is to put all the stuff back together. So just put the airbox back in, plug back in that sensor, and all done. Now that it's all back together, let me show you the tools you're going to need. So these are the tools I used. Flathead screwdriver. I use a long extension so I don't have to get all up in there to get the bracket bolts. I use a short extension with an 8mm to get the intake tube bolts out. You're going to need a 10mm socket to get the top two bracket bolts out. You're going to need a ratcheting wrench to get the side, the third side one, that one that's horizontal, and then obviously a ratchet. Other than that, you might want a light ball, a drop light, a shop light, just a plain flashlight, depending on your lighting situation. Alright, now I'm taking the car for a test drive after I did the shifter transmission bracket bushings. And the first thing I noticed is the shifter itself is less spongy. It'll feel a lot more clunky. So if you liked how it felt nice and smooth, the only reason it felt smooth is because you couldn't feel the vibration of it going into gear. So now it's a nice boom. I haven't missed any shifts. Well, I didn't miss any shifts before, but I really like them, and I think for the whatever $28 or whatever they are, it's totally worth it. No complaints whatsoever. The color choice isn't really going to matter, so don't get all freaked out about color, because it's all underneath, and unless somebody stuffs their head down under where your sound composer is, or if you took it out, it's still hard to see. So just don't put too much thought into the color. You're not going to see it. But I say it's a definite buy. If you want them, go over to edgeautosport.com and pick yourself up a set. Alright, so till next time, wrench on.